I think it's time to start. Hello everybody, welcome to the presentation of the iconic cycle routes in Flanders. My name is Johan van Zwegenhoven. I work for Visit Flanders. The iconic cycle routes is a new product we created together with the 5 Flemish provincial touristic organizations, and I'm going to tell you more about it during the presentation. Iconic cycle routes, in a nutshell. Iconic cycle routes are 9 thematic long-distance cycle routes in Flanders for a cycle holiday in Flanders. It's actually a new framework of 2,500 kilometers of cycleways to discover the best of Flanders by bike. As I said, it's in Flanders, and we like to call Flanders the homeland of cycling, and that is because we, as you might have known or noticed already, we're all a bit crazy about cycling. Last year we organized the World Championships in Leuven, the city of Leuven. There were lots of people, Flemish people, but people from all over the world, showing that we eat, breathe and sleep cycling, as we say. So Flanders is actually a great cycling destination to welcome different cycle target groups, such as the cycle sportives who like to suffer on their bike, and they like to ride the cobbled hills. But at the same time, the last 20 years, we also developed in Flanders, especially the Flemish provincial touristic organizations, a network of more than 12,000 kilometers of cycle node network that is especially suited for tourists on a bike who wants to do a bike ride during their holiday. But since 2021, we created a new layer on top of the existing cycle node network. A new layer to promote Flanders as a cycle holiday destination. So now the focus was not to discover a region during your holiday on a bike, but was really with a focus on a supra-local product to promote Flanders as a cycle holiday destination. With this project, we're aiming for a new target, not the sportive cyclist who wants to suffer, nor the tourist on a bike, but we're aiming for what we like to call the holiday cyclist, people who travel by bike during their holiday, whose focus is, or whose goal during the holiday is cycling. We'd like to call them the explorers because they want to enjoy, discover, and taste the region. And of course, there are many varieties in this target group, from beginners to experts, from older and younger people. There are different and many possibilities in this target group, and we think Flanders, with the new iconic cycle routes, has an excellent offering for all different types of holiday cyclists. Now, to make it recognizable and suited for the international holiday cyclist, we've created a distinctive, uniform, and very recognizable signage on the terrain. Each iconic cycle route on the terrain is fully signposted for the full length of the route in both directions. This means it's up to the visitors, the holiday cyclist, to decide where to start or where to end. As you saw in my previous slide, it's actually, I'll show you, a network. All the iconic cycle routes are also connected with each other. So you're free to choose on a crossing which direction you want to cycle. And this is also indicated on the terrain with a specific signage you can see on top of the right. So different colors for each route, signage in both directions along the whole route, but also the indication of the Eurovelo network, because, for example, the coastal route and the Meuse route are connected with the Eurovelo routes, so cross-border cycling is possible. And start and finish is also indicated, you can see at the bottom right. But as I said before, it's not necessarily the goal to cycle a whole iconic cycle route from A to B, from beginning to the end. It's up to the cyclists themselves to decide where they want to start or where they want to end. Good to know is that because it's somehow a sustainable way of traveling, along all the iconic cycle routes, there are train stations, especially in the cities that are connected by the iconic cycle routes. So it is easy to combine both, and nowadays it's more easier than ever in Flanders and Belgium to put your bike on the train and to combine it with your cycle holiday. To give you an idea, there was a study done by the European Cyclist Federation, and it was somehow a surprise, but it's reality that Belgium, Flanders is within the top 3 of Europe of combination of cycling and train. So there's definitely an option to consider, and it's becoming more and more popular. So, iconic cycle routes, the signage is on the terrain. That means that today Flanders has 2,500 kilometers ready to ride, as I like to call, high quality thematic cycle routes. Because they are based on the existing cycling node network, it often or mostly are the best trajects in Flanders, comfortable routes, often with low traffic, and in most places even car-free. So it's accessible for unexperienced cyclists as well. And it's actually an ideal way to discover the DNA of Flanders by bike. Now, I want to take you on a small trip through Flanders on the different iconic cycle routes to give you an impression of what to expect along the routes and what I mean when saying you can discover the DNA of Flanders by bike through the iconic cycle routes. And I will present each iconic cycling route one by one to you with a few pictures and a few words. I start with the coast route. It's, as the name says, it's at the Belgian coast, the North Sea. It's a relatively short route of 85 kilometers. But as I said, it's part of a larger European route in the Eurovelo network, the Central Europe route and the North Sea coast route. So it's connected with the Netherlands and with France. And it gives you an ideal, it's ideal to discover the typical Belgian coast, to discover the different cities along the coast, but also to taste all the goodness that comes out of the sea. And for example, in Oostendkerke, you can witness the horseback shrimp fishing. It's the only place in Europe where this is still practiced. And at the end of your ride, you can taste the shrimps, of course, as well at the Belgian coast. The front route, which is also situated at the western part of Flanders, is a route that takes you through the stories of the Great War. Along the route you'll see beautiful sceneries as the picture on the right, but you will also discover monuments and cemeteries and relics of the war that tell you the story about the Great War in Flanders. The Scheldt route is a route that has that follows the river Scheldt through Flanders. It's a flat route. It's an easy and very accessible cycling experience. As the picture says, also accessible for families. You just have to follow the river, and along the route there are several options to cross the river by ferry, which adds a nice extra experience. Besides Ghent and Antwerp, which are on the route, the biggest cities, you can also discover smaller nice cities, just such as Oudenaarde or Dendermonde. The Art City route is a route of already 340 kilometers, but there's no real starting point, but it is between Brussels and the Belgian coast, and it connects Leuven, Mechelen, Antwerp, Ghent and Bruges with each other. And so you can have actually a city trip in Flanders by bike, the connections between the cities are very accessible cycle roads along canals and rivers, very natural experience. But then again, each time you come in an art city, you can stay there, for example, for 1 or 2 days. So in my opinion, this is a unique way to discover the art cities or have a city trip in Flanders. Besides, all art cities have excellent facilities on the train stations to combine it with a train trip as well. Some impressions of the art cities we're known for all over the world, but to discover by bike also. The Green Belt route is a route of 26 kilometers better around the capital of Flanders and Belgium, Brussels. It's actually a surprising experience in that sense that it's a major part of it is in nature. You can discover from a Flanders perspective, the vast forests around the capital by bike. You actually constantly have a view over the capital from where you cycle. But moreover, there are plenty of opportunities along the route to taste beer, because one part is famous along the route is a region that is famous for the Geuze, or it's a more, as the specialists have told me, not that I don't like beer, but it's a sourish beer. This is very typical and known in Flanders, the Geuze. But there are like the Abbey on the left, on the right better, is known for its Abbey beer. And then in the region, the East region, you can find other beers around Leuven, which are nearby this route. So maybe a nice example to combine cycling and beer experience as well in Flanders. The hill route, we do have hills in Flanders, and this route combines all the hilly regions in the south of Flanders. But of course, hills in Flanders are bumps, which can sometimes be steep, but still accessible for the majority of cyclists. Of course, if you cycle the whole route from east to west, you will have to conquer some bumps along the route, but still it's accessible for a broad audience. But this is perhaps the most challenging and most adventurous iconic cycle route of them all. What makes it special is that because it combines all the hilly regions, you constantly have a beautiful view over the landscape of Flanders, because it's more, the routes are more on top of the landscape. And in that landscape you can find, there it is, you can find nice land art and landmarks, such as this reading between the lines in Borgloon by Limburg. Not only is the land art quite nice, but the view is also spectacular. And just another example, this is the Muur of Gerasbergen, part of the famous Tour of Flanders bike race, which is also integrated, and just an expression of what to expect of when I say you get nice views all over Flanders from the hill route. So a bit more challenging, but rewarding as well if you cycle the whole route. The Kempenroute is a route that starts in the province of Antwerp, depending on where you want to start, but in my presentation it starts in Antwerp. And you cycle through the heathlands of Flanders. Back in the days, more than 200 years ago, most of this region was covered by heathlands, and there are still some very nice relics to discover. And within that same area, you can also discover along this route some mining heritage, especially in the province of Limburg. There are several sites to discover, like this one is a very nice example of sea mine that is quite intact still and has some extra experiences, such as a labyrinth. But there are many more things to discover. But also the province of Limburg has created some nice cycling experience which are on the route, such as cycling through the heath, which is actually a bridge that takes you over the heathlands and lets you and offers you a nice view over the heathlands. But also the experience of cycling through trees is on this route, and gives you the unique opportunity to cycle through the trees. When I say heatlands, you see an expression of what you can expect. It's very nice, relaxing nature experience along the route. And as I said before, on car-free or at least low-traffic cycle lanes. The Maas route is on the east of Flanders and is along the River Meuse, as the name says. It's a very natural experience. Once again, it's part of an international Meuse route that comes from the Netherlands, Belgium, the Walloon part, and to the source in France. Yeah, there are some nice villages to discover, but also lots of nature. There's the river park, Meuse, which is known for its nature. So maybe nice to combine also with a hike in the region. And last but not least, the Flanders route. This is actually the best of the combination of all the 8 before mentioned iconic cycle routes. It's the one that combines them all with the best of parts. It is 960 kilometers. It's quite a lot. It's not something you do in a few days. I think you should at least 10 or maybe even 12 days to do the Flanders route. But if you want to discover what Flanders is all about and you want to know how unique Flanders is and what opportunity it offers to discover it by bike, there's no better summary at this moment than the Flanders route. So it's actually, it sums up all I said before in one route. So, signposted, nice impressions. Now how do we get started? What we have today is a website, a web portal, flandersbybike.com. On that website we offer all building stones, the basics of how to get started with the iconic cycle routes. We developed a iconic cycle route planner, which enables you to create your own cycle holiday, connecting the different iconic cycle routes with each other. There's even an option to show the underlying cycle node network of Flanders, so you can also visit other places that are not directly connected or are along the iconic cycle routes. And in the end, when you created your route, you can also export it to a GPX file. Your custom-made cycle holiday in Flanders can be exported to a GPX file, or you can even print it in a specific iconic route format, which lists it up all nice, which signs to follow. And what I forgot, and it's very important to mention, is you can also add your overnight stays along the routes, because they are all indicated on the map, and you can add it to your journey or your cycle holiday. And if you print it, you can get them in a list. This is only the beginning, because we are very much aware that people are looking for custom trips. So we want to develop this iconic cycle route planner the following years. We're going to add some extra layers to it to get more info about Flanders to connect to your cycle routes, such as route highlights. Where do you have to stop? What are the best hot spots to visit when you cycle a route of 400 kilometers, for example? Extra services, like there are plenty of options in Flanders for bike rental or for bike repair, but we want to put them all in this planner so they're findable for everybody. And further on, such as e-bike charging stations, picnic spots, and so on and so on. So this is actually, this has to become the tool to make your bike trip in Flanders, but it's already there, and you can already plan your bike trip at the basics, no problem at all. You can start today. It will hopefully only become better. So this is in a nutshell what the iconic cycle routes are about. If you ever, and I hope you'll plan it today, go on a cycle holiday along those routes or in Flanders, you can always use these hashtags. Maybe they're also nice to look at, to get some inspiration of people who've done it last summer. Then you'll notice there are There are some, it's not a million, but there are some people that give you an impression of the variety of people that can come on a cycle holiday in Flanders on the iconic cycle routes. If there are any questions, I'm at your disposal. Okay, I hope everything was clear. If not, fine. Thank you.